go.
It's a bit rougher.
It's interesting, yeah.
They're all boarded up.
Yeah. Glass.
Wow, on both sides.
Glass everywhere.
Crumbs. And there's nobody here.
We left the last episode in Hartlepool Old Town, where we were ready to stop for refreshment and stumbled across the Hugh Battery. You may have gathered by now we tried to steer away from corporate places. We simply don't appreciate the homogeneous conformity and the way in which many of our institutions seem to want to dictate rather than inform, particularly on issues that have nothing to do with the services or product they provide. Well, we found the perfect opposite here at Hugh Battery, an independently run charity whose sole purpose is to preserve England's only First World War battlefield and to honour those who bravely and selflessly gave so much to preserve our freedoms. Britain's east coast is the most accessible to Northern Europe. In World War I, having previously conducted a smaller raid on Yarmouth, the German Navy launched a much more ambitious attack on Scarborough, Whitby and Hartlepool on the 16th of December 1914. They were not attempting to invade, nor were they expecting to cause enough damage to weaken British land defences or resolve. They attacked in order to surprise and draw out isolated elements of the Royal Navy so they could destroy them using mines and submarines. This was a great opportunity for the Germans to reduce the Royal Navy and level up or perhaps even gain naval superiority. However, the Royal Navy had broken German codes and were aware a fleet was heading for England. Rather than cut them off, Admiral Jelicoe allowed the raids to take place, thinking he could ambush the Germans upon their return, having spent much of their ammunition. Following the raids, there were a series of sightings, engagements and cat-and-mouse movements between the opposing fleets. Both sides had opportunities to seize the advantage and fulfil their respective objectives, but, by all accounts, both fumbled and missed opportunities to gain the upper hand. Eventually, the Germans scurried home, and the Royal Navy hung its head in shame for failing to prevent the attack. I suppose you could say it was a draw, but at what cost? Despite being given very little warning and the lack of naval support, the Hugh Battery defended Hartlepool, which was the most significant target. They quickly realised their ammunition couldn't penetrate the thickly armoured vessels, so they targeted deck guns and rigging. They forced at least one German ship to withdraw and take cover. The German ships fired 1,150 shells into Hartlepool, striking targets including the steelworks, gasworks, railways, 7 churches and 300 houses. People fled the town, but around 100 civilians were killed and more than 400 injured. 7 soldiers were killed and 14 injured. The death of Private Theophilus Jones of the Durham Light Infantry, aged 29, was the first death of a British soldier from enemy action on British soil for 200 years. 8 German sailors were killed and 12 wounded.
Wait, what you meant was when you tried to fire it, you had to make adjustments for the way. When you're looking at a piece of equipment that's over 100 years old, yet the working parts are superb. Yeah. Why don't you put a tin hat on?
Oh, why not?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I have a Tommy's hat, mind you.
Well, you must have a Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry's hat on.
This is one of
That's for sure.
The Brody helmet.
Yeah.
And that came into being about 1915.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
it looks the part.
what can I say?
Okay, I'll just keep them from the door, okay? Alright?
That's it, last line of defence.
We're alright.
Oh, I love it, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Mr. Duff. It was the airfield, of course.
Just to keep our German friends happy, of course.
No, you see, there you are.
We'll have a bit of Kaiser Wilhelm.
It's leather.
Okay.
Right?
It is. People like to say the most devastating weapon development in the First World War was the gas, but it wasn't. It was this.
That made the biggest difference to the lot. Yeah, you're right.
We highly recommend this gem of a place. Great location, story and cafe. Thank you, Wally and the team, for making our visit a lasting memory.
Yeah, Great British Viking Adventures.
The number of kicks that it takes to start is directly proportional to the number of people who are watching. So if there's 20 there, it'll take 20 kicks.
Yeah.
Typical. That's stubborn old bite. Yeah. Oh, it's a great bite.
Lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okie dokie.
Cheerio. Safe driving. Riding, I should say. Bye. There he goes. That's Harry on his BMW. Well, we've just had an absolutely wonderful brunch stop. We're in Hartlepool at the Hooch Battery Cafe, which has a museum of World War One. Was it only World War One?
Well, yeah, it's significant in World War One because it was where the Germans came across in their battleships and tried to intimidate the English or the British by bombing the East Coast, and particularly this part of the East Coast. In the First World War, got a real battering from the German Navy. There were pictures of the houses in the museum, how they had taken direct shots from the German Navy, and it brought the war very close to the English shores, even more so in some ways than the Second World War did, although we had the Blitz, the aerial bombings. It's, I think, the last time we had an enemy navy just offshore bombing us.
And we met Wally in the museum, who showed us all the rifles, which was brilliant. And then we met Harry outside the museum and had a chat, sharing bike stories. He's got lots of bikes and he was on a very old BMW. It was
It got older bikes than that though. That was a 1967 BMW, but he was saying I think he got a bike dating, a BSA dating from 1927.
Yeah. No, he's still got them on the road. And now we're just coming away from there, and round the corner we've got this absolutely stunning coastline. I think the breakers make it as well. Just gives it that air of, I don't know, seasideness. Amazing. There's some seriously big waves out there, mind. Not Hawaii style or Australia surfing style, but they look big to me.
Well, maybe it's just the weather, but this is delightful.
I think it's just the weather.
I think it might be. I've just imagined
Sorry,
it.
Hartlepool.
Yeah. I just imagined if it was raining, we might have a different outlook. But this is lovely. What a lovely day to be out on the bike.
So we've just come off the main road, and we're going down 8th Street. We've just passed 5th, 6th and 7th Street, and we're just being tourists really, because this area is supposed to be one of the most deprived areas of the country. 7th Street.
You can buy a house here for £20,000.
Well, there you go, that one's for sale.
Yeah. A lot of them are boarded up now. Some of them are boarded up with
very authentic looking
I was going to say,
doors. That one there, which says 21 on it, it's not got a proper handle on it.
okay.
This is just a picture. They look extremely authentic though.
Okay. So that's boarded up. They're boarded up there.
Yeah.
That's for sale. That's boarded up.
Yeah.
There's a lot boarded up. Like you say, they don't look like, it doesn't look particularly rough or anything, does it? But the amount of boarded up places. This little row looks, well, it's facing the green and the sunshine.
The railway.
There's quite a few for sale. Certain charm about them though, isn't there? That one's seriously boarded up. I wouldn't put any posts through there, postie. It's your local.
Colliery, yeah. It was an old colliery town.
Yeah. 8th Street. Limekiln Gill Beach, it says this way.
David Sykes Superbike.
David's, oh yeah, Superbikes.
Wow.
What-
Colliery, yeah. Looking down these, they just look fascinating.
Oh wow, yeah.
Old colliery town, isn't it?
Borden Comrades. Oh wow.
So this just takes us out to a beach, I think.
This day and coast rank among the best we've done so far. The weather plays a big part. As you can see, the light was fantastic. Believe it or not, it's really quite cold. We've got our heated gloves and jackets switched on, and we've put our waterproof trousers on just for the warmth. This amazing weather has perhaps given a false impression. Everywhere looks rosy in the sun. Many of the towns along this section exist only because there used to be coal mines here. The place names give that away, often being suffixed by the word colliery. There were literally hundreds of such places along this east coast. I can only try to imagine what it was like working in an underground mine and living cheek by jowl in a tiny terraced house with thousands of other identical properties, and, if that wasn't bad enough, the feeling of powerlessness when even that meagre living and self-respect was swept away when every one of those coal mines were closed.
Come listen, oh, ye minor lads,
It's a bit rougher.
the road in by, and I will tell a tragic tale.
They're all boarded up.
Yeah.
Times
Wow, on both sides.
Glass everywhere.
Parties in 10 and
Crumbs.
51.
And there's nobody here.
The gate to hell.
I think there's a few
But they
residents that
that
are
live
hanging tight, aren't they? Local news just use it as a bit of a playground, mind you.
5th Street.
Yeah, you see a few ewes hanging around. Okay, now we pass those two.
Yeah, they were trying to get in the fence.
On the face and the foreshifting.
They look like it, don't they?
Explosion wreck, the quarter
keep
seaman
going if we can.
killed them all but one. And many a miner's humble home lost father,
Colliery
brother,
well.
son. 'twas fire damp
Oh yeah.
beneath the
Reminder of the past.
dusted bed of flame
Says the colliery's this
that
way.
roared out by till it was bent and then roared
Guessing it was up there.
by
Yeah.
again.
Up
Oh.
that path.
Not a lot of it left, mind you, is there?
Rode
No.
the ports from their truly bed and left behind our sorrow with the dying.
Easington Colliery
and
began
the
when the pit
dead.
was sunk in 1899 near the coast. Thousands of workers came to the area from all parts of Britain, and with the new community came new shops, pubs, clubs, and many rows of terraced colliery houses for the mine workers and their families. On the 29th of May 1951, disaster struck when a spark from an excavating machine ignited explosive gases deep in the mine. 80 men were killed instantly. One initially survived but perished a few hours later. A further 2 men died during the rescue efforts. In 1984 it saw its fair share of action during the National Miners' Strike. On the 7th of May 1993 the mine was closed with the loss of 1,400 jobs. Busy?
Yeah. Sunday afternoon destination. Oh, there's the harbour.
Yeah. This is Seaham.
Seaham was also a colliery town with a tragic past. In 1880, 161 men died after an explosion underground. But unlike the other towns we saw earlier, Seaham has been more successful at regenerating itself, and this was clearly evident, at least in the area around the seafront. It was also good to get back to a proper coast road. In the next episode, we discover a hidden gem of a coast road. Join us next time as we press on, still trying to get to Scotland by the end of the day.
Doesn't get any more coast roady than this, does it?
No, basically we're riding along the prom.
Mm.
Legally.